This is the Overachievers podcast for people who want success without the burnout. If you know your work is good, genuinely good, but the right people somehow never seem to find you, this episode is going to explain why that happens. And the answer is almost never about marketing. Welcome to the Overachievers podcast with Keith Blakemore Noble. Because success shouldn't cost everything. Welcome back. I'm Keith Blakemore Noble, the Overachievers coach, and this is where we explore what it really means to succeed commercially, sustainably, and without the patterns that quietly hold capable people back. We have spent the last several episodes looking at the psychology of money and value. Why overachievers undervalue themselves, why hard work alone has a ceiling, why charging more feels uncomfortable, and why clients pay for results rather than effort. All of that matters, but there is a practical reality underneath it. None of it matters if the right people don't know that you exist. You can price your work accurately, you can understand the value that you create, you can have complete clarity on what you offer and who you serve, but if you're not visible to the people who need what you do, the work stays where it is, and so does the income. Today we're looking at why so many capable, expert overachievers remain far less visible than their work deserves, and why, once again, the reason isn't primarily practical. Here is a pattern that is remarkably consistent. Take a group of professionals in any field. Look at who is the most visible, who is posting, speaking, being cited, being recommended, being sought out. And then look at who is the most competent. Those two overlap, but they're rarely the same. There are people with significant expertise, strong track records, and genuine insight who are almost entirely unknown outside of their immediate circle. And there are people with more modest credentials who are far more visible and, as a result, attract far more of the work and the opportunities. This isn't because visibility is correlated with competence. It's because visibility is a separate skill, one that requires a separate decision to develop. And for overachievers, that decision is often blocked by something that has nothing to do with tactics or platforms or knowing how algorithms work. It's blocked by what visibility actually feels like from the inside. Because being seen, putting your thinking, your perspective, your expertise into public view, that triggers something in a lot of overachievers that stops them before they get started. It triggers identity discomfort. Let me describe someone I've worked with. We'll call her Helen. Helen ran a financial planning practice. Highly qualified, many years of experience. Clients who consistently recommended her to others, but slowly, one at a time through quiet word of mouth. You know the sort of thing. She knew she should be more visible. She thought about writing articles. She'd considered speaking at events. She had, sitting in a folder on her laptop, a half-finished post that she'd started 3 months earlier and never published. Sound familiar? When I asked her why she hadn't published it yet, her first answer was practical. She wasn't sure it was good enough. She hadn't had the time to finish it properly. She wasn't certain it would say anything people didn't already know. And these are the standard reasons that we all give. And they're almost never the real reasons. When we looked more carefully, what emerged was something different. Helen was deeply uncomfortable with the idea of people she didn't know forming opinions about her, of putting something into the world and having no control over how it was received, of being seen, genuinely seen, by people outside the safe circle of existing relationships. Her expertise was excellent. Her confidence in a one-to-one conversation with a client that she'd built trust with, amazingly strong. But the idea of being visible to strangers, of her thinking being out there, available to be agreed with or disagreed with, or simply scrolled past, that felt genuinely threatening in a way that she found difficult to fully explain. That's the visibility barrier, and is nothing to do with whether she had something worth saying. She had plenty worth saying. The barrier wasn't about content, it was about exposure. Here's something to consider. Think about your own visibility, the degree to which the people who could most benefit from your work actually know that you exist. Is that level of visibility where it should be given the quality of what you do? And if it isn't, what's the actual reason? Not the practical reason, not the one about not having enough time or not knowing what to say or waiting until things are more settled. The real reason, the one underneath the practical reason. Because for most overachievers, the practical barriers to visibility are genuinely small. The real barrier is something quieter and something considerably more personal. Here is the distinction that I invite you to draw. Competence and visibility are separate things, entirely separate. One does not automatically produce the other. Competence is about what you can do and what you know. It grows through experience, through study, through the accumulation of real results over time. Visibility is about being known. It grows through showing up consistently in the places where the people you want to reach are paying attention. Now, the two are obviously connected. Visibility without substance is hollow and rarely sustains itself. But competence without visibility is, commercially speaking, almost invisible in the most literal sense. And here's the particular irony for overachievers. The more genuinely competent you become, the more aware you are of what you don't know. The more you understand the nuance and complexity of your field, the more cautious you become about making claims. The more you know, the harder it becomes to feel certain enough to speak publicly. Now, that's a real phenomenon. In psychology, it's sometimes described as a feature of expertise. The more you know, the more apparent the limits of your knowledge become. And for overachievers with high standards, that awareness translates into a reluctance to be seen until the thinking is perfect, the position is unassailable, every possible objection has been anticipated. Which means visibility gets perpetually deferred. Not because there's nothing worth saying, but because the standard for what's worth saying keeps rising to match the expertise. There's something underneath the visibility barrier that connects directly to everything we explored in Series 1. Being visible means being exposed. It means people forming opinions about you, your thinking, your expertise, your perspective. People forming opinions about all of that without your input into how those opinions are formed. Being visible means being exposed. Now, for someone whose identity is closely connected to being seen in a particular way, as competent, as credible, as someone who has the right things, that exposure carries real risk. What if the post doesn't land? What if somebody disagrees publicly? What if the thing I say reveals a gap in my thinking that I hadn't noticed? These questions feel like professional risks, but they're actually identity risks. The fear isn't really about the post. It's about what the response to the post might say about you. And that fear, which is a version of the same pattern we explored when we talked about linking identity to outcomes, that fear keeps genuinely expert people silent in the very spaces where their expertise, your expertise, could make a real difference. A difference both to the people they could reach and to their own commercial growth. The solution isn't to become someone who doesn't care about being seen in a particular way. It's to build up enough internal stability, enough of what we call inherent worth. We explored that in Series 1 in Episode 9, Inherent Worth. Go back and check that out. That visibility feels like an expression. So it's build up enough internal sustainability so that visibility feels like an expression of who you are, rather than a risk to who you are. Visibility doesn't need a dramatic overhaul of how you work. It tends to build gradually through small, consistent actions, each one slightly outside the comfort zone. The post that goes out, even though it doesn't quite feel finished. The talk that gets accepted, even though the topic hasn't been fully refined. The conversation that happens in public rather than only behind closed doors. Each of those is a small act of identity expansion, a slight widening of what feels safe to claim, to share, to be seen doing. And over time, the compound effect of that consistency is significant. Not because any single piece of content changes everything, but because showing up regularly in the places where the right people are paying attention creates a presence that silence never can. The work is good. It deserves to be seen. Your work is good. You deserve to be seen. And being seen starts with deciding that the discomfort of visibility is worth tolerating, because staying invisible has a cost. And that's easy to overlook precisely because it's invisible. In the next episode, we're going to move into the territory of money and identity a little bit more directly. We've spent several episodes looking at the practical and psychological dimensions of value and pricing. In episode 19, we're going to look at something that sits underneath all of those conversations, the way identity shapes income, and why the ceiling on what someone earns is often, at its core, an identity ceiling rather than a market ceiling. That's episode 19, Money and Identity. The very next episode, I think you'll find it brings a lot of what we've covered in this series into sharper focus. That's coming up in the next episode. If you've enjoyed these so far, please do give us a like, a comment, a share, subscribe to us on your favourite platform, give us a review on your favourite platform, send links to the podcast to your mates, let them benefit from it as well. Here's something for you to take away. Think about someone in your field who is less experienced or less capable than you, but more visible than you. Quite frustrating, isn't it? I'm sure you can think of someone in that exact position. They're less experienced or less capable than you, but they seem more visible than you. Once you think about them, consider this. What are they doing that you are not? What are they doing that you're not? And what would it actually cost you to start doing that? Not practically, internally. What would it require of you to step up and start doing what they are doing? And when are you going to start that? That's it for this episode. Again, if this is all making you think about your own visibility and commercial process differently, follow the episodes, stay with it. We are building we're building something across this 12 episode series. That's episodes 13 to 24 of the podcast. They're all building something nicely. Head over to keithbn.link/top, where you'll find this episode. You'll find all the other episodes. You'll find the show notes for each episode, along with everything else relating to that particular episode. You'll find some links to other blogs and other stuff to check out as well. And you'll also find the Overachievers quiz if you want to understand which overachiever patterns are most active for you right now. I'm Keith Blakemore Noble, the Overachievers Coach, and I'll be your guide as we explore a healthier way to succeed. Catch you in the next episode.